back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hey guys, if you saw my last video, you'll know where I've been. And now I want to do a book haul because I have had a lot of books coming in over the past couple of months that I haven't actually hauled. So I just want to dive in and kind of tell you a bit about them. There's also going to be another video where I recap lots of the books I read in the time that I was kind of off BookTube. So look out for that coming soon, and there will just be more videos kind of coming as and when, hopefully a lot more often. So we'll see how we go. But yes, let's get straight into this book haul. So I've got a stack of books here and then another stack down here because there are quite a lot. So let's get started. The first book, and one that I've actually already read, is this one. It's Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. Now, TJ Klune is one of my favourite authors. I absolutely love his stuff. Everything he writes just is fabulous, and he writes in a variety of different, they're all fantasy genre, but they're all different kind of age ranges. So these are his adult books. He's got this one, and then he's got House in the Cerulean Sea. They do not form part of a series or anything. They are just standalone books, but I highly recommend both of them. This one is about a man who is a not very nice kind of guy. He is called Wallace, and he is just a bit of a nasty piece of work, to be honest. He's like a manager, and he just looks down on everyone and thinks he's kind of the bee's knees. And then he dies, and this is not a spoiler because it happens literally straight away. He dies, and then the story is about him kind of trying to move on to the next part of death, and alongside doing that he kind of meets a couple of different characters who are supposed to help him on his way, and it's kind of his story about redemption and learning how to be a better person, but also just kind of how to form relationships and improve his life even in the afterlife. And it's really lovely. It's actually one that TJ wrote whilst he was grieving the loss of his partner, and it is quite a heavy book for TJ, I'd say. It does definitely deal with some heavier stuff, but it's also beautiful and hopeful, even though it's a sad book. And it's one of those stories that I think you just have to read it to really understand it and to love it, and I think a lot of people are gonna love this. So I highly recommend this. I think it comes out in October, the end of October. And yeah, really can't wait for lots of you guys to read it. I'm so glad to actually own a physical TJ Klune book. I really need to pick up the rest of his books because I have loved everything I've read by him, and I continue to read the rest of his books, and yeah, they're all fantastic. So highly recommend pretty much anything by him. Really looking forward to kind of collecting the rest of his books so that I can have them all proudly displayed on my shelf upstairs, which is my favourite shelf. So yeah, that's book number one. Book number two is actually a graphic novel, and I love graphic novels. I haven't really been reading too many of them in the last year or so. I just kind of haven't been by a graphic novel shop. Normally I go up to Forbidden Planet in London, but obviously with COVID and all that, I didn't go up to London anywhere near as much as I normally do in the last few years. So I haven't really been buying them, but this one was actually kindly sent to me by the author. It's called Goblin, and it's by Eric Grisson and Will Perkins, and it just sounded fabulous. They contacted me and I was like, absolutely, please send it to me. I think they also sent me some of the artwork, and I was like, yep, that looks cool. So I'll just show you inside, a quick flick through some of the pages, just so you can get a bit of a feel for kind of what the style is like. There you go. You can see it's like really beautiful kind of ethereal colours and dingy, but yeah, it looks really cute. So this is about a goblin, obviously, called Richt, and one day his home is raided by a human warrior, and he is left orphaned. He vows to avenge the death of his parents, and he's trying to find a way to get back at the person who did this. And he finds some help from unlikely allies throughout his journey and learns the secret power hidden in the heart of the first tree. So it sounds like it's going to be a classic kind of revenge, growing up story, and I'm very excited to read this one because I do love graphic novels, and I don't know if it's actually standalone or if this is the first volume. It doesn't say it's the first volume, so I'm assuming it's a standalone story. But yeah, I am definitely excited to read this, and hopefully we'll be doing so pretty soon. So I'll let you know what I think of it when I read it. The next book I've been sent is The Coward by Stephen Aaron. I haven't read any of Stephen Aaron's books, but this one sounded interesting. It says, who will slay the evil in the frozen north, saving all from death and destruction? Not Kel Cresser, because he's done his part. Apparently he was a legend, or is a legend, a celebrity and a hero. When he was 17, he set off on a quest to slay the Ice Lich, and he came back victorious, but he also came back completely alone. He'd lost all of the other people that went with him. Now it's been 10 years and everything has kind of passed. His story is a hero's story, but there is a new terror arising in the north, and presumably he's going to get pulled back in to fighting and kind of defending his hero status. So I'm intrigued to see how this goes. As I say, I don't really know anything about this book beyond that, so we'll see. And in case you are wondering, this one does have a very nice detailed map in the front of it. I always love a book with a map. The next book I have, I actually can't remember if I hauled this or not in a previous haul, so apologies if I did, but it's The Unbroken. I've actually read it now. So this is about two different people, Taurine, who is a soldier, and Luca, who is royalty. And it's about these two women who are on opposite sides of a conflict. The world that they come from is pretty brutal and dark, but they kind of end up mixing for various reasons. And it's all about the ties of blood versus the ties of society and kind of how you are raised and how you've been brought up. One of them is a trained soldier who was actually stolen away from her family and trained up in the empire that the royal Luca, her family, kind of rule. And Taurine is, yeah, this fiercely noble, fiercely staunchly loyal character, but she's also tested when they go back to her homeland, which is currently under invasion by the people that she works for and has been kind of living under. So it's a bit of a conflict of interests, and it's kind of their story of how they deal with the conflict of interests and what they do to resolve this, what they do to work together or not, as the case may be. And I very much enjoyed it. It wasn't a favourite for me, but it certainly was interesting enough that I read the whole thing, and I would be interested to hear what you guys think if you have read this one, because I've heard pretty good things generally, but I think it is quite military heavy, and that might put some people off. So yeah, do leave me your comments if you read this one. What did you think of it? The next one that I was really kindly sent is actually a special edition. This is an anniversary edition. It is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, but this is the illustrated version by Chris Riddell. I love Chris Riddell's illustrations. I've always enjoyed his art style, and to see that he was bringing out this one was great. This is actually a book that I have read before. I think I reviewed it on the channel. I'm not 100% sure. If I can find it, I'll link it. But I read it a while ago and I definitely enjoyed it. It is a book that I enjoyed but didn't love, whereas my partner, my fiance, absolutely loves this book. He really rates it, and the whole series, in fact I think it is his favourite book. So when I heard that there was an illustrated edition, I knew he would love it, and I was super excited to get my hands on a copy. And this was kindly sent to us by Macmillan. Illustrations are really cool, and that is obviously the main selling point of this one, is the fact that it is the illustrated version. So you can see all these like alien creatures have illustrations. There are some that are full page ones as well, like this one. So definitely a cool version of the book, and I'm actually excited to kind of reread this book with the illustrated ones, because I think it'll be really great with illustrations. So very happy to have this and very excited to reread it. I know Steve plans to reread it with this edition because he loves it and wants to see the illustrations. So yeah, I hope we will be reading this in the near future. The next book I have is this one, Tenlo, which is sent to me, I think, from the author. It's by Stark Holborn. This one is a book that just sounded really interesting when the author contacted me. It's about a character called Tenlo who is eking out a living at the edge of the universe. They are an ex-medic, ex-con, and desperate to escape the memories of the war. She's still not learnt that no good deed goes unpunished. She is trying to atone for her sins, and she pulls a teenage girl out of a crashed life craft. But this girl is no ordinary girl. She's genetically engineered and she is part of the army that kept Ten a prisoner, and it was an assassination attempt against this girl that she rescues, so I guess they are going to end up wrapped up in some kind of adventure together. So I'm pretty intrigued about this. I love the cover. I think it's really dramatic and kind of wild desert, but also just really strikingly beautiful. So I'm pretty interested to see how this one plays out. Yeah, it sounds good. I'd love to hear if you guys have read this. What did you think of it? Because I know this one came out not too long ago and I'm pretty intrigued to see, yeah, what other people think of it. The next one I was kindly sent by the publisher, and that is The Trouble with Peace by Joe Abercrombie. I believe this is the second one following on from A Little Hatred in a new series which I think is still part of his First Law world, but do correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know an awful lot about this, and to be honest I'm not going to read the blurb because I know that a lot of Joe Abercrombie's books actually take place in the same world as the First Law trilogy. I've only read the very first book, I think, in the First Law trilogy, which is an error on my part, but there's some sort of weird barrier in my head because the very first book that I ever did a review of and read for this channel was First Law Book 1, and I have never ever carried on with the series and never ever reviewed the rest of them. I really should, because I very much enjoyed the first one and I like Joe Abercrombie and his sense of humour is pretty funny. I've seen him at conventions. I've read a couple of his books, but only that one from this series. I think I read his YA series as well. Basically, I really need to read his books and I don't know why I haven't, especially because this new series I know a lot of people completely love. I know A Little Hatred got so much love from the general community of readers, so yeah, I should really read these, shouldn't I? But anyway, I've got sent this one, so maybe it will motivate me to go back and start the rest of them and just kind of power through the series and see whether I love it, which I think I probably will, so very happy to have this. The next one I was sent by Orbit, and this one doesn't come out till February next year, so it's a bit of a wait. It's called The Justice of Kings and it's by Richard Swan. This one sounds like it's going to be pretty interesting. I think they've done like fairly early proof copies and review copies, which often means that they're kind of really trying to push this book. So I'm intrigued. It says that there is a guy called Sir Conrad von Volt, who is a justice, a judge, a jury, an executioner, all in one. He is sworn to travel the empire and uphold the law by way of his sharp intellect, arcane powers and skill as a swordsman. So basically he can do everything. But these are dangerous times even for a justice, and apparently this is an unmissable debut. So I'm pretty intrigued to give this a go. I definitely like debuts. I like trying out new authors. This one sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, pretty powerful protagonist, which is always good. And yeah, we'll see if I happen to take a liking to Sir Conrad von Volt. We'll see. The next book I have is one that is a proof copy. This one recently came out. It's called A Master of Jinn by P. Deli or Jelly Clark. I'm never quite sure how I say this author's name, so I apologise if I got that wrong. But I am actually currently reading this. I'm only about 50 pages in, but I'm enjoying it and definitely intrigued to see where it goes. I believe the author has a couple of novellas set in the same world, but this is their kind of debut book. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes. It seems to be set in an alternative kind of Cairo where there are jinn and genies who kind of roam around and are part of the world, and it sounds like we have an investigation about a murder going on, and I'm pretty interested to see where it goes. Like I say, I'm not that far in yet, but I've heard good things from a lot of people, and it's alternative kind of to Western settings, which I always like as well. So intrigued to see how this one plays out. Hopefully you'll get a review of this one pretty soon from me because I am currently reading this. The next one I was kindly sent by the author, and this is The Broken Heart of Aurelium by Alex Robbins, War of the 12, book number 1. And honestly, this one has one of the most beautiful covers. I could not resist when I saw the cover art for this, asking the author for a real copy rather than a digital one. And it just, yeah, sounds really interesting. It's about 12 great warriors who united the armies of the men in the war-torn lands of evil over 400 years ago, and they pushed the enemy back underground to the caverns. However, the Knights of the 12 are long since passed into history and their numbers are dwindling, and there is a terrible dark secret, isn't there always, which must be protected. So we are following a character called Mirad Reed, who has spent half of his life guarding a great crater known as the Pit, yearning for some escape from this really bleak kind of lifestyle. The arrival of Aldurin, one of the few remaining Knights of the 12, will change up everything for him, and I guess they're going to get involved in a pretty interesting adventure to hopefully save the world somehow and keep this secret hidden. So I'm intrigued. I love the cover, like I say, and it sounds like it could be quite fun. I think this one might be an entry in this year's SBFBO. I'm sure I saw it either in this year's or last year's, so I'm pretty interested to give this a go and see what I think of it, and I'll let you guys know once I read it. The next one I was kindly sent by the publisher, and that is The Gauntlet and the Fist Beneath by Ian Green. This is a book which is published by Head of Zeus, who I very much enjoy as a publisher. And let me just read you out some of the blurb. So it says, "The endless rot storm rages over the ruins of the Ferran Empire. Flore would never let the slavers of the Empire rise again. As a warrior of the Stormguard Commandos, she wrought horrors in the rot storm to protect her people. She did her duty and left bloodshed behind. Flore's peace is shattered when blazing orbs of light cut through the night sky and descend on her village. Her daughter is abducted and she is forced to chase across the land a twisted monster and ancient gods. She must pursue the mysterious orbs whose presence could herald the return of the Empire she spent her entire life fighting." That one sounds pretty cool, and I do like a female lead. I hope she's a pretty badass one. It definitely sounds like she is. So yeah, we'll see what this one entails. Again, let me know if you've read this one. I'm not sure when it came out, but I think it must be out because this looks like a finished copy. And I'm pretty intrigued about this one for sure. That one actually came out at the beginning of August, so maybe people haven't read it yet, but if you have, let me know. Next up, another one I was kindly sent by the publisher. This is one that I've seen floating around actually quite a lot on Bookstagram and just Twitter and stuff. I've seen people talking about this. It's called The Maleficent Seven and it's by Cameron Johnston, and it sounds like a lot of people are getting into this pretty soon or have just recently read it. It's about one town with 7 bloodthirsty monsters and their last hope. A dark new faith is taking over the land. Cities and towns are crumbling before its power, but there is a demonologist called Black Heron who's not willing to give up so soon. She abandoned her own bloodthirsty army on the eve of its final victory, but she won't do it again. To defend this new foe, she needs to reunite her old captains again: vampire, necromancer, orc chieftain, war god, twisted alchemist, and pirate queen. Can they overcome their vicious rivalries, persuade them to forgive her betrayal, and will they lead the 7 legendary villains even be enough to defend an army of fanatics hellbent on conquest? This actually sounds really interesting, and it reminds me of another book. What is the name of that other book? It's about a band of people. If I can remember it, I'll put a picture of it on the screen. I know exactly the book that I mean, I just can't think of the name of it, but it really reminds me of that. I'm very excited to read this. I love the cover art. I think this bit at the top, particularly with the silhouettes, is just stunning. And I love the fact that they're kind of described as villains rather than heroes. They're not your typical protagonists or people that you're rooting for, so I'm pretty intrigued to see how we go for a villain POV. I haven't read any kind of villainous books for a while, so I'm definitely excited about this one. And as I say, I keep hearing really, really good things, and I think it came out relatively recently, so yeah, let me know. Have you heard of this? Are you picking it up? What do you think? Just 2 more physical books. I was going to do a digital book haul as well of all the ones I've been sent digitally, because I do get quite a lot of those. But let me know if you are interested in seeing that or not, because I might put that in a completely different video, because this one's getting really long, I just realised. So, there are 2 more books. This one is The Cabinet. It's by Eun-Soo Kim, and it's been translated by Sean Lynn Halbert. And this one's actually published by Angry Robot. Even though it looks like it's a really small, tiny independent press, it's very different cover design, very different artwork. And I think it's been translated from Korean. Yes, South Korea, and apparently this is one of South Korea's really famous science fiction writers, so pretty interested in this. It comes out in October of this year, so it's not out just yet. It says Cabinet 13 looks like an old ordinary cabinet, but it's filled with the strangest of stories. 13 looks exactly like a normal filing cabinet, but it's marked with files on the symptomers. Humans whose strange abilities and bizarre experiences might just mark the emergence of a new species, but to Mr. Kong, the harried office worker who spends his days looking after the cabinet, the symptomers are a headache, especially one who won't stop calling every day asking to be turned into a cat. Which does sound very weird. I think anything that is not Western sci-fi or fantasy is always really fun to dip your toe into, because they have a very different writing style, generally speaking, over there, and it's always weird and wonderful and just different. So I'm super excited to read this. I don't get sent an awful lot of translated work because sci-fi and fantasy is notoriously bad for doing that, although we are getting better. I'd love to see more of it, is what I'm saying. But yeah, I always get really excited when I do get sent translated works, because I just hope they're going to be fabulous, and the same applies here. But cats are great, I love cats, so we'll see how this goes. And the very final one that I got sent is this one. It's actually a big book. It's the Provenson Book of Fairy Tales, and this one is by Alice and Martin Provenson. This actually comes out in November, so I believe there was a husband and wife team who wrote a lot of fairy tales together. They rewrote modern feminist versions of the Grimm's fairy tales, and this is like a new edition with illustrations of those stories. It sounds like it's going to be pretty interesting, and I believe they actually illustrated the book as well, so it'll be pretty interesting to see. I think you can tell that the illustration style from the cover is quite wacky, so you can see how it is. But I like it. It's really detailed, beautiful, kind of odd style. And actually, having had a baby recently, I think fairy tale books sound like they will be completely up my street. And of course, I will be reading lots and lots of stories to him as soon as he's big enough to understand. Even before then, let's be honest. So this will go straight onto his bookshelf, and I'm super excited to read some of these with him in the future. So very pleased to have been sent this one as well. So those are all the books that I recently got sent in physical edition. I think that is quite a lot. I need to put them all on the shelf behind me somehow, and then start reading all of the stuff behind me. So do let me know if you've read any of them, what you thought of them, or if you're just really excited, because I know there's a lot of new releases here. So let me know which ones you're most excited to read and which ones you'll be picking up. Thank you all so much for watching, and don't forget to let me know in the comments if you want to see a digital book haul of all the books I've been sent digitally in the last few months, because there are quite a few of those as well, and I am reading some of them at the moment, so I'd love to have your thoughts. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye guys!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.